It's been fantastic to be back here. I've spent many, many happy days in my undergraduate days and my graduate days out here, both through a undergraduate degree in mathematics and then an MCA. But the interesting part about it and what I'm going to tell you today is that the most of what I learned on this campus was not inside the classes. The most that I learned about and what was useful to me in my life was outside the classrooms in which I was taught. There were many great teachers out there and many interesting things. But what I had to regard as priceless was the diversity of people I met from the arts department, from the engineering department, from different departments. Somebody who taught me about theatre, which is all what public speaking is about. Speaking is about inspiring, is about telling stories about. Tintin, who's now your head of department, taught me about theatre. There are friends who taught me about philosophy, about economics, about different things. Milonda, the canteen man, taught me about multitasking. That's what he does. He does. You should see him in action. So, what I want to talk to you about is again lessons I learned, management lessons I learned. But I didn't learn them in a management school or with professors. So after 17 years of working in various sports and media businesses, I found my way in the Kolkata Knight Riders. And over that next 7 years, the things I learned about management and leadership out there are very, very, very different from what you learn in textbooks. But I think in many ways, those were the most meaningful management lessons I've learned in my life. So let's start with where we started off. And I was very lucky because for many people, the curve goes up and down. I was really lucky because when we started off, we were right at the bottom. And the Kolkata Knight Riders, the first 3 years, had the worst record of any team in the IPL. And we learned many things in that period. The first thing we learned is you can't have more than one captain in a team. And that's something that we learned that, you can have this whole business of 2 captains, 4 captains. I'll have a captain for the first 6 overs, maybe you're the captain in the dressing room, I'm the captain on the offside. Does not work. You need one leader, one voice, and one person to do things. So that's lesson number 1 we learned, and we learned it the really, really hard way. The second thing we learned is, this is slightly more nuanced. The truth is that just a great player cannot help you win championships. Because what happens when you have just a great player, but if that player is not thinking about the team, and a classic example is one of the most destructive T20 batsmen ever was a part of the Kolkata Knight Riders. But if he did not give us a culture of winning, if he was not there to inspire people in the dressing room, then no matter what he does in the field, he cannot make the organization win a championship. Which is why if you look at his career over the last 10 years, that great player has never won an IPL title. And there must be some reason for that. And the third thing that we learned out there, which was extremely, extremely important, was to make people perform the best, you need to give them time. You need to give them the feeling of confidence in them. And one of the things that we used to do very badly wrong in the first 3 years is we would pick players and drop them at the last minute. 15 minutes, half an hour before playing, a player was suddenly changed for another player. And what did it do? Not only did it impact that player because he didn't play, it impacted every other player because he thought that even if I'm told in the team meeting that I'm playing, the captain could change me at the very last minute. All things that don't work when you're trying to build a successful team and a successful organization. So those are things that I learned that you can't do. I think let's come on to the slightly happier time of things that we learn to do and learn to do well. So I'll start off with something very interesting story from what happened in 2011. In 2011, if you all remember, was also the year of the World Cup. India just won the World Cup, and 2 of our players, Yusuf Pathan and Gautam Gambhir, were a part of that team. So literally, because the World Cup was there, even from other countries, players were coming together literally 3 days before the tournament started. Now what does that mean? Think about it in typical business parlance. The team that you want to get together and put together and work towards making a championship are literally shaking hands with each other 48 hours before it starts. So the question to you is, there are different people from 7 different countries. Even the Indians, half of them don't know each other. Somebody's from Delhi, somebody's playing for Bengal, somebody's playing for Baroda. Different states, different people, different levels of skill. And suddenly you're saying, dude, you have 2 days to get together, become a team, and start performing. So you know what our coach did? Our coach is a man called Dave Watmore, and he has coached more countries than anyone in the history of cricket. He has coached Pakistan, he has coached Sri Lanka, he has coached Bangladesh, he has coached Zimbabwe, and he was also the director of India's National Cricket Academy. With Sri Lanka, he won a memorable World Cup in 1996, which in many ways changed the way cricket is played. And you know what he said? He walked into this dressing room and all these players are sitting there 48 hours before the tournament starts. And he said something, and I'm waiting for this pearls of wisdom. Here's this great coach I know, and he's there. What is he going to tell these players? He stops and he says, this is 2 days before we talk specific tactics on the day of the game. The only message I have for you is, I want every player, while we are fielding, to run between overs. And I stood and I heard that and I said, wow, that's a downer. I thought some pearl of wisdom will come out, and he says, run between overs. And then, over the next couple of days, I began to think about what he actually said. So what happens when you run between overs? There are 2 things that happen. The first thing is, you have a commitment to physical fitness. That means even if 18 overs are over, it's sweaty on the ground, you're really tired, you still have the energy to run. Very important. That means the first thing you're making players do is a commitment to fitness. That every player has to be fit. Every player has to be there to perform at the right time. The second thing, which is even more important in that, is try running with your head down. You can't. It's very difficult to run, because if you run with your head down, you're scared of colliding with something. You can walk with your head down, but you can't run with your head down. And you know why that is important? I'll tell you. Because when you're fielding during an IPL tournament, every once in a while you're going to go for 30 runs, 20 runs, 25 runs. Some Chris Gale or A.B. de Villiers is going to get hold of you and smash you. It is bound to happen. But you know what happens? A bowler has gone for 20 runs in the end. He's really savaged the bowling, and yet everyone with their head held is running up and running around. It just tells the batsman that, hey, this team is not going to give up. I may have won this over, but this team is going to come back and really going to fight with me every next over. So when you have a team that runs between overs, the batting side never thinks that they are in control. They always think, wow, I've given it a good shot, but next over they could come back at me. And that's extremely important. So in 2 very simple things, he actually redefined the way the team was playing. Or he defined actually the way the team played. So that was the first thing that I learned. One simple mantra that could bind a disparate group of people together and make them play a tournament as one. The second thing he did, and that's even more subtle, and it came to us much later. We had a player called Manvinder Singh Bisla. Okay? He's a great player. Now the one thing that Manvinder Singh Bisla has, with Shahid Afridi's, both of them don't know the spelling of the word defense. So now the question is, Manvinder Bisla would go out, he'd get runs, he'd get out. And everyone else would say, oh, Bisla again gives it away. Look, what a great player he is. But he gives it away every time. He goes there in a good position, then he gets up. That Watmore used to look at it completely differently. He says, Bissy, and that's what he used to call it, your game is hitting the ball clean. Hit it. Hit it as much as you have to. I will only have a problem when you play tentatively. Your problem, and then he related to us a great story about the 1996 World Cup. When in 1996, they were trying to put together the Sri Lankan team, there was this player called Jayasuriya in late 1995 who was a spinner who used to bat at number 7 or 8. And then Watmore just noticed that Jayasuriya could hit the ball very hard. And you know what he used to tell Jayasurya? He used to say, go out, if you get out for 5 innings hitting hard and you're caught or whatever, it doesn't matter. I will penalize you only when you're tentative. Exactly the same thing he told this guy. He said, go out there and hit the ball because that's your role. Role definition. So Bisla knew that as long as he followed those instructions, the captain would never drop him for not performing because his job was to do what he did best. Classical management parlance, but I learned it from a cricket coach. The second thing he taught me, and that's also a very interesting one, was trust. Now this is what trust people talk about, he's trusty, he trusts, he doesn't trust. Now the truth of it is, what is really trust? And I'll give you a very good example of how trust works in a cricket field. If you've ever seen a team batting, okay, what is the rule of calling for a run? It's a very simple rule. If I'm the batsman, bowler's that side, okay, the moment the ball is behind the wicket, it's the call of the non-striker because I can't see it. Okay? The moment it's ahead of the wicket, it's a call of the person who's batting. That's how all cricket calling is done. That's the convention of cricket calling. Simple enough. Now let me tell you one thing. Suppose I am batting out here. The ball is hit out here, it goes behind the wicket. I'm the batsman. I turned around and said, non-striker says, run. Instead of running, if I turn around and look back, see where the ball is, and then decide to run or not run, it takes half a second. Between 0.5 and 0.8 seconds. Okay? Because what am I doing? I am not trusting his judgment. I am saying, no, I don't believe you, let me check for myself. If the ball is on the leg side, it actually takes about a second because you have to turn around like that and see where the ball is. Now, every IPL team has about 15 to 20 run-outs in a T20 season because that's about, that's the rules of the game and that's about how many you have. More than half of them are by less than 0.5 seconds. That means if players learn to trust the person on the other side making the call and don't spend that extra half a second or second guessing their call, they're almost half the number of runouts you have. Very simple. All we talk about, every organization talks about trust, but this is the essence of trust. I'll take that example further and put it into your working life. Have you all sent emails, especially when you're working, which you call CYA emails, or in proper terms, cover your backside emails, You send it to, instead of being sure, I send it to everybody. Why? Because I don't want to make sure that everyone's the same. I don't actually send it only to the people who need it. What happens? All of us get a whole lot of emails that we really don't need to read and our systems are clogged. Why? Because I don't trust that the organization will do it right. Let me play safe, let me send it to you. So, simple things like trust are the basics on which organizations are built. So, this run out is exactly an example of how on a cricket field, in an IPL team, you learn about trust. The other thing is, very interesting is when the ball goes high in the air. And I remember a particular example of it, which was I think the 5th of May, 2012. And we are playing, Pune is playing Kolkata in Kolkata. And you can see the stadium, half of it is purple, but half of it is also blue. Because Saurav Ganguly is playing for the Pune Warriors. And the entire crowd is, in both sides. And you know what happened? And we were in a good position, and then Angelo Matthew hit 3 sixes in the over, and the next over, Saurav Ganguly is batting, and Bhattacharjya bowls, and Saurav gives it this mighty whack. And it goes so high up there that at least 5 of the KKR team could have gone and caught the ball. The one guy started running towards it. His name was Iqbal Abdullah. And you know why high catches are more difficult than low catches? Because high catches give you an opportunity to ponder on the consequences of failure. You have all the time. You have all the time to figure out what will happen if I drop this. And it came down and he got it. But the thing about it was, where does it come into management? We had created a team where wanting to win, the fear of win, the urge to win was higher than the need to avoid defeat. So the person said, my team is the kind of team who trust me. If I drop it, nobody will have a problem. But if I don't go for it, they will have a problem. So we had created a team culture where the person was incentivized to go for it. And I can tell you, if you watch international cricket or any cricket, you'll see so many of these examples. The ball is falling and three players just land up. Up in India. Oh, your cat. Typical. Nobody is taking the responsibility. And that's why you ask any coach, they'll tell you, I'm actually happier with two players colliding on the field because of bad communication. Not that it's a perfect thing, but it's bad communication. Then two players lining up with both not trying to take the ball. Because that is a typical organization of an organization which people have not learned to trust each other, saying, I don't want to take it because in case I drop it, I could be dropped. And that is essential. So when you create a team where that single ball, that 50-50 ball is there, and your guy goes for it, fully knowing that he might drop it, that's when you've created an organization that remains consistent in the long run. So these are again important things, but they are very, very simple basic management terms which come to life not just out there on the cricket field, but come to life in things we do. There are so many places exactly the same way in management where you say, I don't want to try that project because I might fail and that might get me into trouble with my bosses. Instead of saying, you know what, if I succeed, it will be really good for the company. So when you have fostered a culture of people willing to take individual risks for the sake of the organization, you fostered a culture that works. And what is the other thing I learned? The single most important other thing I learned was something taught to me by a man called Shakib Al-Hassan, who used to play for KKR and Dubai. And we've just gone back and we're playing in Bangalore, and Riddhiman Saha has played, and Manan Bora have played Kolkata Knight Riders, and they've crossed 200 runs. And they've like come back into the dressing room and they're changing, and you would think that the dressing room people are saying, oh, what's going to happen now, we go to bat. And Shakib comes back and says, I know now we're going to win. So, out of pure curiosity, I asked him, why? It's a natural question. They just scored 200 runs first. So, he turns around and says, because there's no doubt in it. And he was right, because what happens is, if a team is chasing between 150 to 170, 180, you say, should I play a bit careful, then accelerate? Should I go for it a little bit later, or should I accelerate in the beginning, then pull back later? There are all sorts of doubts in your head. Once you reach 200 and you're chasing 200, you have nothing to look at. You have to go and chase it from ball. And that's exactly what we did. We successfully chased down the target of more than 200 runs in an IPL final, just because we knew and we believed, and there was no doubt in our mind. And with that, I'll leave you. That's what I learned out there, and that single one thing, that take a target, look at it, and once you've decided to go for it, don't take again. Thank you.